Is this thing on? Can you hear me? Well, let's everyone have a seat, and I am so thrilled to see this many people. This is just wonderful. We want to start with a prayer, and Cynthia is going to lead us in prayer, and she's going to lead us in the pledge, and then I will introduce our speakers.
Thank you. Will y'all bow your heads with me? Father, thank you. Thank you for the privilege of gathering together as parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, neighbors and friends of young people who live in a culture with so much pressure and stress. Will you give us clear memories of what we learned tonight and discernment to see how these young ones are handling the stress and the emotion in their lives? Help us to be true support systems that they can count on and hearts that they can be honest with about their struggles. Please guard them from destructive influences and friends who don't have their best interests at heart, and bless the youth of our nation with character, virtue, and a drive and desire to serve those around them. Thank you, God, for the love that you've given us for these precious young ones. In Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to say, if those of you who are not in prayer, we want you to be part of the in prayer. So if you would, you don't have to do this, but Carolyn is in the black shirt right there. If you would, she's going to pass a little pad around. If you would put your name on it, we can send you an email when we're having another really good program that we're not really doing tonight. And next month in September, we have the woman who is president of the Education First Alliance, and she's also president of Pen and Shield Project, which is both of them are 501Cs. One can help politicians, one cannot. She's coming as a non-political person, and we'll be talking about how parents can get control of the education of their children. So we have a really good program tonight. We're going to have a really good program next time, and you don't want to miss it. The sheriff is going to say a few words, and then after that, Lieutenant Josh Christensen is going to do our program. And it's a really good program. So I'm so glad you're here. There's cake, Coke, popcorn, so help us stay.
Can everybody give me without a microphone? Thank you. I don't like the microphone. Thank you for coming out tonight. This is really important. It's important to me as your sheriff of Harnett County. But most of all, what this program is about is educating the parents, grandparents, social workers on what to look for. So many times, when we go to an overdose death, sometime after the funeral, I try to get back and reach out to the families to tell them what we're going to find who did this. And I see the pain in their eyes, see the hurt, what they're going through. Now, I've never lost a child. I can't imagine what that's like. But one of the things that I kept seeing and hearing was we didn't see all the signs. We didn't see any signs that our child was involved. So I need to back up just a little bit. 2 years ago, before COVID hit, Lieutenant Christensen came down to me and we were talking about all the overdoses we would have. So we were trying to figure out how we could communicate to our kids, I call them kids, I should say young adults, and educate them on what these drugs are doing. And I said, gosh, there's no way we can get to all these kids that we need to reach out to in a short period of time. So we came up with a plan. I met with Dr. Fleming and the school board, and I told Dr. Fleming what I wanted to do. Josh put together a panel, and Dr. Fleming was all on board with it. what we did, we educated the 9th and 10th graders at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then we did the juniors and seniors at 9 o'clock in the morning. We put together a panel of 5 folks. One of them was a pharmacist that told the effects of the drug on the brain. Another one was a mother who had a child that was an addict and had been an addict for a year. And what he had done while he was on this, like set the house on fire for 10 minutes. We had an addict that had been clean for a year to talk about what he has gone through his drugs. We had Sand Hills Mental Health that talked about the treatment. We had a mother that actually lost a child to the overdose. So we had a great panel, and that's how we came about. We educated every high school in 2 weeks. Well, my plan was to come back later and do the program we're doing now, which is What Are You Missing? And COVID hit, so we had to put it off. So that's how we got to what we're doing now, is educating our parents, grandparents, social workers, anybody, because we are losing so many. Josh will give you some statistics of what we are dealing with today. COVID overshadowed our real problem that we've had for years, and that was the opioids. But COVID was the big thing then, so it sort of overshadowed the opioid epidemic that we are going through today. So this program, what you see here is a setup of a mock bedroom. These are the things when we would take photographs at overdose desk. That's how we came up with this. We looked at everything. A lot of parents didn't realize what the Q-tip is, what the broken ink pen is, what the razor blade is, what the cotton swabs are, until they had lost the love. And then we would explain to them. That's what we're trying to do today, is to show each of you signs to look for when your child goes to school. Go in that room, look around. Don't say, well, that's my child's privacy. No, it's not. That's your bedroom. That's your house. And if you want to help save your child's life, know what's going on. Small things like the poster right there, you think, well, that's just a kid thing, the poster. That poster says a lot. So you need to pay attention to these things that are going on. What I have done, I spoke with Dr. Freeman 2 weeks ago. Josh and I sat down again. We're noticing more and more in the middle school. So this coming school year, we're going to do the same thing for the middle schools. We're going to take that program and educate our middle school students. One thing that I'm seeing more and more of, and I'm sure you do, think it's innocent, but it's these e-cigarettes or vape cigarettes. Now these young folks are putting marijuana in, and they're walking around and some parents think, well, it's just a vape pen. We confiscated, I think, in one school this past, in a couple of weeks ago, we confiscated that for 250 of those vape pens that had something inside. So when you see somebody with that, not everybody does it, but it's a red flag for us. So again, this program was to educate you and let you know what to look for at your house, at your friend's house, or whatever. We've done 3 of these programs so far, and we've got, in fact, Bishop Henry drove back down from Raleigh today to hear this program because he's looking at putting this on over at Mount Pisgah Church. We fixed this one in Dunn at Hood Memorial and Cool Springs. Is it Cool Springs Church? Holly Springs. Holly Springs Church. So we'll go put these on anywhere. These folks don't get paid a dime. This is all volunteer because we're trying to help save our kids. We also going to have a speaker tonight, Mr. Scott Barnes, a good friend of mine. He's got a story to tell. His barefoot couldn't be here tonight. Actually, it was her son. The day was his death, and he had overdosed and died. So it's going to be hard for her. So ask you to be with her family, pray for her. It is hard for her. So Scott picked up a very short notice, and he's got a story to tell you. So with that being said, Lieutenant Christensen, he's the lieutenant of our narcotics division, and I'll let him take over, and then we'll let Scott finish up tonight. But thank y'all so much for coming out.
Good evening. I'm going to try to talk up the microphone as well, because especially when I go over in the class in the bedroom, I'll end up having, or I'm not speaking to it anyway. So if you can't hear me, just let me know. My wife says all the time I'm loud enough, so you should be proud of y'all hearing me. So Lieutenant Josh Christensen, I've been at the Sheriff's Office for about 20 years, almost 20 years. I've been working narcotics for almost 18 of those 20 years. So over these 18 years, I've seen the trends of what's going on. And really 18 years ago, my first investigation, my first drug case was prescription opioid pills. And that's kind of, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's what this is about, is that opioid. We all know about how the news, hearing in the news about the overprescription of those opioid pills. And then just a few years ago, they kind of turned the faucet off to where there was no more overprescription of prescription opioid pills. And then that kind of opened the market to where we're at today. And there's a lot of stories, again, Sheriff asked you to keep Linda barefoot in your prayers, but that's how her son. She told a very touching story, her story on how she lost her son, and it was, again, so many stories start off with prescription opioid abuse, turning into going to the streets and using it intravenously. No one wants to start off being a heroin addict. No one says, hey, I'm just be a heroin addict today. A lot of times it starts off with that misusing opioid prescription pills or other drugs. So that's why we're doing the best we can. We're working as many investigations as we can, putting people in jail, putting people in prison, but we can't arrest this crowd away. So it takes these kind of education, it takes community involvement, and that's what we're doing, is seeing what else we can do to think outside the box, and get communities involved and educate as much as we can to prevent this from becoming worse than where we're at today. So some goals, kind of give a timeline. I plan on only speaking for like 45 minutes or so, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Barnes. 45 minutes of hearing me talk. Y'all be ready for me to leave. I have a wonderful wife with $2. Trust me, I know what the white of their eyes look like. When I talk too much, I'll start seeing the white of their eyes. So I don't want to see the white of your eyes. About 45 minutes, you'll probably have enough of me, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Barnes. Okay. Miss Diane, if it's sooner, you can throw something at me or whatever to get my attention. I can had enough. But I want you guys just, I want to get these goals across here when you walk away from here. Hopefully, these are some of the things that you leave with. Pay attention to the small things. You know, we all know our children, our loved ones. I know when my child walks the door, I have a 17-year-old. I know by the way she slams that door what kind of mood she's in. I know if I need to talk to her or if I should let her walk upstairs. So that's the little things. We know our loved ones. We know our wives. We know our husbands. We know people that are close to us. We know what kind of moods they're in. So it's paying attention to those small things. Speak to your kids. Speak to your loved ones. Speak to your nieces, your nephews, and talk to other people about it. But speaking to them about drugs and alcohol use, that goes a long way. Hear the honest truth from a guardian, from a parent, instead of where else are they going to hear it from? They're going to hear it from school. They're going to hear it the wrong. They're going to hear the false. They're going to hear not the correct way of hearing it. They're going to get educated on it by someone else that's going to probably tell them something false about it. So speak to your kids. That's what we want. The big thing we want to walk away with is speak to your kids. You know, each kid's different. I'm not going to be up here telling you how to parent your kids or your loved ones or any of that. Trust me, I'm not going to do that. But you want to have those conversations. And don't be afraid when you're talking to them, asking them questions, being involved in their life. Very important. Be involved. What does the child have, especially when they get into middle school, high school? What does a child have in their possession all times? A phone. Get involved in that phone. Be involved in that phone that's their life. That is telling their story, that phone is. So be involved. It starts at an early age. I mean, it's going to be tough. If you've never done it and you have a 17-year-old and you say, give me that phone, is it going to be tougher? I mean, if you're paying for it, you can say, I'm done paying for it. But if you haven't started at an early age of being involved and letting me see your phone and letting them knowing that, hey, that phone is also, my parents can look at it any time, So that's the important part there, is making sure you start at an early age if you can. If they are older, hey, let them know that you're paying for it. And yeah, if you wanna be involved, because being involved is definitely, a huge part of that education, that opioid, children knowing what's going on, and knowing that you're part of their life, that you're involved, that you're watching them, that you know what's going on. And then educate yourself. If you do hear something, you do hear them talking, you do hear conversations, you hear slang words, we all have phones too. Go Google and educate yourself on what that slang word means. And then you can really make their heads spin when you start talking to them about it. Then you can have another conversation where you heard them say something and you educate yourself, and you have that conversation again. They're gonna know my parents are there. My parents know what I'm talking about. Again, I'm not gonna get things by them. So that's what I want you to kind of walk away with today, these goals right here. So again, I'm not gonna talk, this whole presentation is about opioids, but that's our number one problem we have right now in Harnett County, in North Carolina, and across the country, is opioids. When we talk about opioids are your Percocets, opioids are also your fentanyl and heroin. What we're seeing now is just straight fentanyl. Okay, it started off with opioid pills, people misusing opioid pills, snorting opioid pills, and now it's turned to where fentanyl is flooding the market coming from South America, where it's so cheap that that's what people are using. It's stronger than heroin, and that's what everyone's, all the seizures we get right now are fentanyl. And you can tell that it's being manufactured in Mexico, South America, by the precursor they're using. So, as you see these numbers here, 2000 goes to 2020. Starting in 2010, before that, automobile accidents were leading cause of deaths in America. 2010, it turned to where your overdose involving opioids took that, and then it done nothing but climb since then. So this is a national problem, and also state and county problem. I'm one where I'm a very visual guy. I want to see, I don't want to have my head in the sand. I want to see what's going on in Harnett County. So we are started about 5 years ago, doing as much tracking this, doing investigations and following the data we can. Because I'd rather know what's going on and follow it and try to link it all together, and instead of just having my head in the sand and saying, oh, it's not that bad, or it's this. Because at the end of the day, there's parents are losing children, and there's children that are getting addicted to these substances in Harnett County. So you see these national numbers here, and here's Harnett County numbers. So that's 2017 to 2020. And it's the same again, it's male and female. It's hard to see lights, but we have 50, 2021, there's 50 deaths related to opioids. They haven't been confirmed by toxicology reports, because the state's really backed up with toxicology reports. But we're going by investigation. We're going by, when we go to an investigation, what's on that scene is it probable to believe that that person did die. Some of it will be preliminary from toxicologies. That number usually fluctuates. They're so backed up, we're just getting in 2018, 19 toxicology results from the state. A lot of agencies around the state, I'm not talking anything bad about other agencies. A lot of agencies across the state don't do this. They go to them and they just work them as a natural cause death, move on. If there's nothing that stands out, they might work at death by distribution. They might work an investigation. I want to share, we want to work differently, where we treat all these and we work them as a death by distribution case. And we have now 14 individuals we charge in the state of North Carolina, in Harnett County, for death by distribution. And that's why we want to go at it, and everyone work as hard as we can. But you can see that the trend is the same, similar trend. You can see in 2021, what's there, 19 and 20, or what the different jump is there. There's the same kind of jump going into these years here. So we had 50 last year, and we're at 25 so far this year of suspected opioid related deaths. So we're actually tracking about the same as the year before. So that's seeing numbers. Again, we follow it by area of Harnett County. We follow it by gender. I can probably might bore you with numbers and graphs and all that, but to me, I want to see what's going on. I want to see the part of the county that is having the most trouble with this. I want to see the age groups that are having the most trouble. I wanna see all that, so it gives us ideas, because again, we can go arrest people, we can go arrest 10, 20 people a day. It might stop in this one area, what's going on here, here, here. So we wanna find out what's going on throughout the county. So that's kind of, I just wanted to talk about opioids briefly, because at the end, when I talk about the bedroom, it kind of leads to your opioid, because that's, when you start talking about drug addiction, your opioid, your methamphetamines, that's when you start getting to that serious addiction. That's where that drug is really ruining your life, really driving your life, running your life. And I'll start off kind of where, hey, I'll start off slow, kind of this is just showing risky behavior, but it kind of builds itself up, because I've done over 100 interviews. And I usually don't always do it, but I always ask the question when I'm talking to either a drug addict, a drug dealer, a lot of times you're drug addicts, of how did you start? And most of the time, they start off with cigarettes. And they start off going from cigarettes to alcohol, from alcohol to marijuana. And marijuana, they went to maybe doing some pills, they doing some ecstasy, doing that other things, and then they went from that, and then in their early 20s, that's when they went to that next drug of methamphetamine, crack cocaine, and your heroin. So that's why we're getting involved in trying to do as much education as we can to our young adults, so they know that the risk of this, they know that taking some pills and misusing that pill is, you don't have control of it no more. And that's where, I'm sure Mr. Barnes is gonna be able to talk about that. Here, Belinda talked about that. That's what happened to her son, is that he started on pills and he is stronger than he was. And the next thing you know is snap the fingers. You don't want to be a heroin addict, but guess what? You're a heroin addict. And that's I hear that story after story again. So that's how strong it is, and that's how important it is for us to get involved at an early stage. Sometimes it happens in people in their 30s and 40s. It does. It happens where people do get in a car accident in their 30s and misuse those prescription drugs and then go down that dark path. But a lot of times, the majority of the time, it is starting with that youth that is getting involved, getting in risky behavior, hanging out with the wrong people, all those things. That's why it's so important for parents and guardians to be involved in their children's life, to let them know that you're there and holding them accountable. You know, we see all the time. We had one investigation that's being worked right now where someone was, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Ultimately, we're talking to the mother of a young child. She was 17. And she was going to an older adult's house. He was in his 20s. The mother said, I've been taking her there for the last year, thinking it was her friend's house. That's a fault. Of course, I didn't say this to the mother. The investigators didn't say this to the mother, but that's the fault of that mother, that parent. We're just assuming that you're taking your child to a friend's house, assuming that. And the whole time, she was taking her to a guy that was 4 or 5 years older than her. I think she was 16 or 17, he was in his mid-20s. And he was supplying her drugs. Again, we didn't make that mother feel guilty or anything, but that's the point. That's a lot of this is trying to say, as a parent, you need to know knock on that door. If I'm gonna drop my child off at a house, I'm gonna knock on that door to make sure who's at this house. I'm just not gonna take their word for it. So kids who learn about the risk of drugs at home are 50% likely to use drugs. According to MTV, MTV is still around, believe it or not. It just shows movies now. It's not music, it's movie TV, really is what it is. But MTV survey, recent survey, they had half of all kids name their parents as their hero. So, we all know this. Parents are very influential to their children. Guardians, you don't have to be a parent, you can be an uncle. You can be a loved one, you're involved with that child, you're involved with that child's life, you're gonna help influence that child. So we talk to our children, talk to our loved ones, it's educating them. So Good Samaritan law. Who here knows about Good Samaritan law? Anyone here know about Good Samaritan law? So this is one where, again, this is where we don't educate enough. This is one where maybe we should put this in the paper. At a dead record, we need to educate more on this. Good Samaritan law came around 4 years ago. And it's where individuals that have some overdoses at their house aren't prosecuted. They have immunity. So they do call for help. They do call for that ambulance. So it's a Good Samaritan law where they have protection to where they won't get in trouble if someone is overdosing, someone is having trouble, in a vehicle, in a house, they can call 911 and they're protected. That's a conversation for your child right there, to let them know that, hey, don't be, there's this law's there, don't share, if there's whatever, if you're around it, you're having immunity, you're protected. So that's those conversations of knowing this, and that's part of our job, and that's what we're trying to do the best we can, is out here educating on these kind of things like this, Good Samaritan law. Because again, the majority of this room right here didn't know anything about it, and it's something that we all need to know. So, because people do get scared, and that's why the law was created. Is because people got scared and were calling for help, or calling emergency services when someone was having an overdose and possibly dying. They were scared that they were going to get in trouble. So that's a Good Samaritan law. What you look for, we're going to talk about the bedroom in a second. But shifts in mood and personality. So I say this I put an asterisk with this because some of this is just someone turning into a young adult, either male or female, some of these moods and some of these personality changes. So just because someone has one of these or a few of these doesn't mean they're a drug addict. But again, you should know your child, your loved one, better than anyone. You should know what's normal, what's right, and then when stuff starts getting out of the ordinary, that's where you start paying attention to it. But shifts, someone withdraw or depressed, less motivated, silent, uncommunicative, hostile, angry, deceitful, secretive. Drug addicts are the most manipulative people there are out there. I've known from talking to people that have been involved, but they'll do it from their own mother and father. They will manipulate and steal from their own mother and father. That's how strong drug addiction is. So it's a very strong. That's how bad drugs can be. It destroys lives and families because it will. So we start seeing that deceitful and secretive, manipulative behavior. That's a clue of something's going on. Are they able to focus? Some loss of inhibitions, and hyperactive, or usually elated. Again, some of these are just a child turning into a young adult. Doesn't mean that they're actually having addiction problems, but it's just stuff that you want to monitor and pay attention to. More behavioral changes. Again, locked doors. Again, that doesn't mean something. Again, you want to give your child respect, and that's something that doesn't mean nothing right there. But again, if they never lock their doors ever, and all of a sudden they start locking their doors, hey, it's the small things. I talked about that in the beginning. Is paying attention to these small things. Again, eyes. I'm going to show a slide a little bit. Eyes tell the story. I can tell when my child, again, I love it because it's almost like interviewing one-on-one when I talk about my 7-year-old child. So I can ask her a question and her head will drop, or it's just, because ultimately, when you talk about interviewing someone, it's not, there is some very high-speed scientific stuff about your pupil will do this, this, and this, but ultimately it's what's knowing what they do when they're telling the truth, and then what they know when they're being deceitful. So I know my child, of course, 7-year-old's honest 97% of the time. So when she just has that one mistake and she's not being honest, it's simple to see that it's not her normal behavior. It's not her normal way that she acts. So those are the small things. Where she always looks at me when she's talking, but when she's done something wrong, like put the cat in a pillowcase and put it in the sink, I know by the way she's looking at me. Did you do that? No, I didn't do it. So the cat magically got into a pillowcase and got put under the sink. And then no, Daddy. Then she looks away and all that stuff because she thinks she knows she's getting in trouble. So it's the small things. And that's a true story. She did put her cat in a pillowcase and locked it under her bathroom sink. So hygiene and appearance, again, it's a conversation starter. Smelling smoke, especially young adolescents, they coming home smelling like smoke. Again, let them know. You let them know that you do smell the smoke. Again, they're going to have an excuse. They're going to say they're hanging around so-and-so, they're hanging around so-and-so, they were smoking. But it's something where at least they know that, hey, they're onto it. Or they come home and they just have a fresh, full spray of cologne on. Again, they know that you're involved in their life and that you're calling them out on whatever that smells smoky in their clothes. Burns on sooner fingers or lips. This one, it starts going into where, again, they're using a lighter a lot. You start seeing that on their fingertips. You start seeing them using a lighter. A lot of times, meth users will have that, meth addicts, where either the manufacturer meth, you start seeing them lose a lot of their scar tissue on their hands from opening up batteries. Methamphetamine now is coming across the border as well. Our homemade methamphetamine has kind of gone away. So a lot of our methamphetamine is crystal methamphetamine coming from the border, because it's cheaper and it's just, you can get much more. That's what we're seeing. We're not seeing any more homemade meth labs. Well, again, that soot where they're constantly lighting a lighter, and you see it on their fingertips, but the fingertips will be burnt, have black marks on their fingertips. Track marks on arms and legs. Again, this one is a kind of a dead giveaway, but something might be going on with so many parents. Again, I talk about manipulators. They're going to have a story for it. They're going to have an excuse. They're going to have, oh, it's this right here. Oh, I went here. Oh, I asked that football practice, and they gave me an IV, and they missed my vein, and it's like black and blue. They're going to have that story. They're going to snap their fingers. They're going to have it, and it's going to sound, oh, it sounds about right. So being prepared for those kind of stories of deceit and manipulation, because they're going to have it. Frequent sicknesses, unusually tired or lethargic, unable to speak, slurred speech. So opioid use, that's a lot of times you see that. You see the slurred speech, you'll see the nodding of the head, the drowsiness. That's when you can tell someone is on opioids, is they'll just start nodding off, or they'll start slurring their speech. But that nodding off is a huge indicator where you just be having a conversation with someone and they'll just nod off. That's that opioid. That's that opioid system. Sore spots around the mouth. Again, that's just that physical health. Pay attention. You should know your loved one if you start seeing these signs. What's going on with them? How and where to look. Use your nose. Again, smelling them coming home, smelling the marijuana if it smells marijuana on them, smelling the cigarette smokes. Watch their behavior. Talk about some behavioral signs, and that behavior tells the tale. Again, some of the behavior is just them turning into a young adult or into an adult, going through puberty. So you can't just because they lock themselves in their rooms doesn't mean they're a drug addict. So I want to put a caution to that. Just use good common sense. But if you start seeing a lot of those behavioral changes, that's where you start saying, again, attention to small things. Hey, maybe we have a conversation, make sure everything's all right. Again, because we know our loved ones. I keep saying it, you know them better than anybody. And then look them in the eyes. The eyes are a true giveaway. So, someone hit that light for me again, please. Thank you, sir. So dilated pupils. So we talk about dilated pupils. Again, if you start looking at eyes, especially, it'd be hard to do, but if you ever looked at an addict's eyes, this is all very scientific and it's there. But your dilated pupils, your amphetamine, methamphetamine, cocaine or crack, hallucinogens, opioids, heroin, marijuana, speed. But that's what the pupils are dilated. So almost how if we go from complete darkness to light, our eyes dilate. Their eyes are like that just in a normal day. Just in a normal day after using it, you can see it. Typically, on heroin, I see this a lot more. Is the constricted pupils. That's what I see a lot of times on people using your opioids. It's those constricted pupils. That's your fentanyl, cocaine, hydrocodone. This dilated more of your cocaine, your amphetamines, your crack cocaine. Is where you have it dilated because that's that rush. You have that upper of the drug. And then red eyes, marijuana, it can be cocaine or crack, or Xanax, depressants. That's that very lazy, just red eye. A lot of times, just really compared to with marijuana use, red eyes. Thank you, sir. Thanks, sir. And search your spaces, and that's what this little room here is about. Is being involved in searching their spaces. I've heard the sheriff say it many times, but that's especially if it's someone that's in your house, staying in your house. You have a loved one, you have a child. That's your bedroom. Again, how old are you, sir? Blue shirt? 20. So when you're 18, if your parents were never involved, it would have been pretty much it'd be more difficult if all of a sudden they say, I'm searching your room today.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at.
It wouldn't be happy. But if you grew up with it, it's normal. So it's something that, you might have to use a little bit more caution, use a bit more creativity, but it's something that, if it can start off at an early age. Start off at an early age, searching these bedrooms, being involved. I'm not telling you to go home today and ransack your kid's room. I'm not saying that. So let's use some good common sense there. It's being involved and going in their bedroom, even doing it when they're there. But letting them know that, hey, I'm searching your bedroom, I'm making sure that everything's, I'm looking out for the signs, the small things. That's what we've seen. When we put that presentation on in the schools, we had the addict that spoke. He was 23 years old, maybe 22 years old. He was from Fayetteville area, and his mother I was talking to his mother, and she didn't see any of the signs. And it's things like, of course, he had that typical, I wouldn't say typical, I hate to call it typical, but he had that story I told you about where he started off in high school smoking, middle school smoking, using tobacco, nicotine, then using marijuana, and then doing prescription pills, snorting prescription pills, because he didn't want to be a heroin addict, and he was that, just like that. There was no prescription pills, he couldn't snort any pills, and someone said, well, here's a needle. And that's when all of a sudden he was using. But that mother didn't see things. She says, I remember seeing broken pens in his room, broken pens where he was snorting. I'll show you that. And that's what kind of started this kind of idea here is, those are small things. If she would have got involved and known those things earlier, maybe she would have got to him before he started going down like that. Luckily, he didn't die. He overdosed a couple times, but never died. So that's a good story there. But it could have easily been that story where that child did die, and she saw those signs and she was able to intervene. So that's kind of what started this. It's hearing all that, and seeing all these things in houses and vehicles that we go to. So we talk about the small things. I'll kind of talk about the small things first. Again, if you go in your child's room and you see these posters, it doesn't mean that they are a drug addict. It doesn't mean that they're a drug dealer. What is this conversation starter? All right, it says why you promoting marijuana? Why you promoting being a dealer? Why you promoting 420? Why you promoting marijuana? It's a conversation starter. Again, they might have an easy answer for you, but if you don't like it, guess whose room it is? If there's your house and it's your child, your loved one, it's your room, tell them to take it down. Because there's not, again, there's other posters they can have, but ultimately, that could be where it starts. It's something to have, get away with this, and then let me see what else I can get away with. I don't know, but that's that conversation starter, paying attention to the small things. Posters. So we go into other small things, and so many things you can make homemade. I have probably 60-some things, and at the end of this, I'll put stuff back, and you guys can kind of come up here and look through it, and kind of open up drawers and look through stuff. So I'm not going to be able to talk about everything. Not to make another 60 different things or buy another few things to what's out there. So I'm just kind of doing what's higher, what we see, it's more visible. But right here is something. This is a toilet paper roll with some dryer sheets, and this is what they'll smoke if it's a cigarette, if it's marijuana. This helps mask the smell. Helps lower the amount of smoke coming in their room. Again, if you didn't know what this was, you saw their kid. Again, a child's going to be able to make an excuse for that real quick. Oh, that's something for school. That's something for this, and this. So again, if you are suspicious, you could even take a picture and put it in Google Lens, and it's going to pull up something. So you can take pictures and put that picture on Google search, and it's going to tell you what this is. And this will tell you, Google will tell you what this is in a heartbeat. So it's the small things where you saw this in a measurement, it looks funny, and just educate yourself on something small like this. Again, it could just be cigarettes, which again, if they're under 21 now, that's against the law. Or if you marijuana, it could be methamphetamines. A lot of times, methamphetamine is inhaled, isn't the typical way methamphetamine is used. So your alcohol. Again, alcohol is, I can do a whole presentation on alcohol abuse in adolescents. There's a lot of deaths associated to alcohol abuse, binge drinking, and children misusing alcohol. I can't believe it because it burns the crap out of my mouth, but people will drink straight alcohol mouthwash to get a buzz off of. when addicts go to rehab, guess what they can't have? Alcohol-free mouthwash, alcohol-free so-and-so, they gotta have it. But a child, someone that is fiending for alcohol, they will drink straight alcohol, Listerine. They'll do something as simple as this right here, especially when COVID hit, your distilleries and everything were making hand sanitizer. This is 75% alcohol. And it smells like straight alcohol. But again, this in their bedroom, hey, they're being sanitary, keep their hands clean. But if you start seeing this in the bedroom and a month later you see it down to here, empty, that's that small thing of, hey, wait a second, they're not washing their hands that much. So it's paying attention, that's the small thing we talked about. Same thing with mouthwash. Again, if you start seeing a lot of these bottles empty in their bedroom, you start seeing where you're buying them constantly, great. They're having great hygiene in their mouth. But again, how long should this last? Is it normal if they're going through it twice as much, 3 times as much? You start to see a lot of the bottles in the rooms. Those are the small things you pay attention to. So again, this conversation started where you get on it and talk to them sooner before it turns into a more serious problem. So kind of talking about that is your Visine. Again, Visine, again, there's allergies in eyes, there's all sorts of different problems we'll have with their eyes. But if you start seeing where they're going through bottles like of this a lot more often. Again, I've had the same bottle of Visine in my cabinet for I don't know how long. But again, you know, that's the small things where, hey, they do have an eye allergy, but this is unusual because now they're going through 3 bottles of these. I keep having to buy Visine. Where are they going? Same thing with lighters. Where are the lighters going? I have a lighter for a candle, but I keep having to buy new lighters. Where are all the lighters going? Those are those small things that we pay attention to. Then ask questions, hold accountable, and find out what's going on.
But a lot of that stuff is poison.
Excuse me?
You know, the Visine, the hand sanitizer is poisonous alcohol.
It is. I mean, it's not good for them for sure.
Well, it's not to drink or it's not edible. It destroys your liver.
I know, but that's how people that are wanting alcohol, they'll still drink it.
Because they don't care about themselves. I think that's where it starts.
Exactly. I know, and it's being involved at an early age, because if they're doing that, where are they going to go to next? So that's why it's so important to be involved, so you can hopefully catch it before, what's next after this? You can drink straight hand sanitizer. What are you going to go to next?
You're going to be homeless.
Well, I know that's what we don't want. Hopefully we can catch it before they get homeless, hopefully before they get become an addict. So next we have hiding spots. Talk about hiding spots. All sorts of different hiding spots. You have now where you can buy stuff. You can buy your hidden compartments. So hairspray, it works. Kind of, we've had it for a while, so that it's lost its CO2 in it. But this here has the hidden compartment at the bottom. Unscrew the hidden compartment, and there's a bag. So again, it's just paying attention to small things, you know, realizing that everything can be somewhere they can hide something almost. Flashlights, bag of flashlight. Again, both batteries, a bag of, could be simulated marijuana here, in the back of the flashlight. Another hit, this one here, this is actually, you can purchase this, so many things you can purchase online. Be mindful if you're giving your child, however you're giving them allowances now, however you're giving them money. A lot of times now it's being where they're giving money on a card, they're giving some type of Visa credit card, however, but they're going beyond their, if they have a Amazon account, they're using their money beyond their Amazon account. Because you can buy, here's a, looks like lipstick that actually, you can get them where it's real lipstick. This one's simulated being real lipstick, but that pulls off and there's a hidden compartment in there where it's simulated being a small bag of heroin. So again, there's hundreds of different hides like this on the internet that you can buy. And there's also so many things that you can make. Here's another one that you can purchase. Again, a comb, a hairbrush, and at the back of it, twist this off. And again, another compartment behind in the handle of the brush. So you can buy this, or again, with a brush, you can make it yourself. It's not hard to make these things yourself. Here we have same thing with a lint roller. Take off the top of this lint roller, and it's the same kind of hidden compartment inside this lint roller. lint roller works. There's a hidden compartment inside that lint roller. Let's see, so going into, we start talking about razor blades. The sheriff mentioned razor blades. So razor blades are a lot of times, they'll use these to separate, either if they're using cocaine, they're using any type of powdery substance, they use a razor blade to separate the substance into a user amount. If they're gonna snort crushed up pills, they're gonna snort cocaine, they're gonna snort air, whatever it may be, they're gonna use a razor blade a lot of times, not all the time. They'll use that razor blade to help separate it into a line that they can use. So pay attention to those razor blades. Again, ask the question and be prepared for that answer. They're gonna have an answer for you. So don't just take their answer for granted, because it could be it makes good sense, but they're prepared to give you an answer sometimes. Again, we talk about drug addiction and how manipulative these addicts can be. And so have that understanding that they are gonna manipulate. And they manipulate, again, for their parents, their loved ones, and being prepared for that. So here's one, and I've heard this from several parents. There's one you see in Q-tips. Q-tips where the cotton's broken off. Again, a lot of times those have cotton swabs, but if you see Q-tips, you're getting the same thing. You're getting the cotton off. You start seeing a lot of just tore apart. That's a huge sign of something going on. That's intravenous needle use, what they're doing. They'll use a cotton swab to help get the impurities out when they shoot that syringe up with whatever they're shooting up. So that's when they'll get the cotton off, these cotton swabs, Q-tips, or you just see cotton swabs. See cotton swabs in a room, and it's, again, a child's gonna have an answer for you. Hey, I got my ear pierced, I'm putting alcohol in the back of my ear. That's how quick. So just think how easy it'd be if you saw a bunch of cotton swabs, and your child has his ear pierced. And they say, yeah, I just put alcohol in the back of my ear. You say, okay, that's normal. And again, it could be normal, but it's also that they are a drug addict, and there's other things, those small things that could, let's say, pay attention to those small things, could mean that it could be used in something else as well. So that's this educational part, is showing you that there could be other signs that we need to be looking for, other things. So ultimately, with our powder right now with fentanyl, what is being done is they put fentanyl in a lot of times they use a Gatorade bottle cap. Put fentanyl, the amount they want to use in this bottle cap, put water in it, put a Q-tip, put their needle, and shoot it up just like that. And that's how they're the whole melting with a spoon and all that, that's an old way of doing it. That's a different kind of heroin, that's a different kind of substance. This is getting dissolved in water, and they're shooting up in a needle, and they're using it that way. So that's those small things the sheriff talked about, is those Q-tips, cotton swabs, rolled up dollar bills that's still being used that way. Again, they don't have something, they don't have a broken pen, they don't have a device to snort, they'll roll up a dollar bill still. So seeing that roll up dollar bills is something you need to pay attention to. Of course, this room is cleaner than my 17-year-old's room, this little mountain bedroom, and of course I would never do this in my 17-year-old's trash can. But look in the trash can. Look in the trash can. Again, you wouldn't want to dump it out on the bed like that, because who knows what's growing in that trash can. So here's a paper bag. What do we see in this paper bag? Outside of it. Paint. So they want to hear the huffing. So they'll spray paint, aerosol products, a lot of times paint, into a bag and then inhale it. Sometimes you see, of course, evidence on their face, but they can wash that off. Again, you open up a trash bag, you look in a bedroom, you see the trash of paint in a paper bag. There's something going on there. A lot of times it's huffing. Huffing is one where it's still out there, still being abused. Because it's, that's why you might think it's silly, but how old you gotta be to buy spray paint? 18 years old. So that's why it's there. Homemade stuff. Here's a Pepsi can with some holes poked in it, and it's just a homemade smoking device. So here they can put this marijuana. They can do something similar, even for smoking meth. But typically it's marijuana. They put marijuana on the top of this, use a lighter, and just put their mouth at the opening of the beer can, and there's your smoking device for the substance. Again, it's not normal. And again, if you take a picture of this and upload it to Google, it'll tell you this instantly, it'll tell you what this is. It'll tell you it's drug paraphernalia. Your burnt. This burnt is hard to see probably with reflection, but it's a burnt aluminum foil. This is where a lot of meth addicts, meth users will smoke methamphetamine through aluminum foil, where they'll put the meth on the aluminum foil and they'll light the bottom of it and inhale the methamphetamine off the aluminum foil. So burnt aluminum foil in a trash can is something that shows use of methamphetamines, crystal methamphetamine. And here's kind of, this is the water, but used cotton kind of looks where it's all really closed up and it's just not a typical puffy cotton swab. So that's kind of when you start seeing a lot of these, again, being mindful of who your child is, what they have, if they use alcohol to clean their ears, clean their earrings, clean whatever it may be. But if you start seeing a lot of these signs, it's where you have that conversation of why do you have these many and what else can I have. A lot of times we see them a lot in houses, is your corner baggies. So we start talking about people, how they distribute drugs, they'll sell them in corner bags. So if I'm selling a little bit of marijuana, I'll have it in a corner bag, I'll tear that corner bag off, and I'll sell it to you in that corner of a Ziploc bag. So they'll use it, and then they'll throw that corner bag in their trash can. So it's just simple plastics of a corner of a Ziploc bag. What I want to do now is turn this over. I'm going to talk about a couple of things up here, actually. So here's an inhaler. This is we started talking about the vape pens. Here's a vape pen that has actually THC in it. Actually has marijuana in this vape pen. Again, these are so easy to get now because there's so many states that are having it legal. Recreational use. There's 17 states now where marijuana is recreational, legally recreational. You can use. So it's easier to get. So high schools will start seeing a lot more of this. What's happening is the potency of these is so much stronger that when kids use this for the first time, second, third time, they have a more extreme, they're having just more the symptoms of getting high. It's hard to overdose on these, but their body still is getting too much of this at one time where it's not good for their body. Because some of these are 70–80% THC now. Because they're being manufactured in states that is legalized. Very cheap, these are only a couple dollars. You can get them cheap now. So it's coming, eventually it's gonna be here in North Carolina. Don't know the timeline, but it'll come here eventually. In the years to come, marijuana will be legal here and we'll deal with it then. But it's against the law now. And again, people say it's a gateway drug. A lot of things are gateway drugs. Nicotine, alcohol, all that can be gateway drugs. It depends on where you're hanging out with, what you're doing, who you're involved with. It could open that door to the next thing, being around somebody that introduces you to another drug.
Can you get those pens online?
Yes.
You can?
You can get pretty much anything online now. Then if you're really smart, and it's not hard, you can go on the dark web, which is not hard to get on the dark web where it's untracked, and you can get whatever you want. So it's being mindful that if no one, what your child's doing, what they're getting on, and again, when they turn 18, they move out, they can be doing this without any supervision. But again, a lot of this is being mindful of being involved in your child's life, looking on their history, making sure they can't delete their history, their browsing history on the computer. Get on there, again, see what they're looking at.
How does it affect driving, marijuana?
Excuse me?
If somebody's on marijuana, how does that affect driving?
It does affect, you're under the influence. So you're under the influence on it. So there's a lot of research and data from the states that have it legalized where their accident rates are increased. So yes, it's a substance you're on. Just like NyQuil. If you take too much NyQuil, you're influenced.
You're not focused on driving.
So it's very similar. Pacifier, let's talk about this and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Barnes. So again, a pacifier in your child, especially in your teenager room, this would be something they'd be suspicious why they have a pacifier. So ecstasy use. A symptom of someone using ecstasy is they grind their teeth. So they grind their teeth, so they like to put a pacifier in their mouth. If you ever seen movies, ever see raves, you see a lot of times pacifiers hanging off their clothes or in their mouths, pacifiers. It's the craziest darn thing, I know. But it is, I'm not making this stuff up. So with ecstasy, you also have, when you're on ecstasy, it's something that you like, so your sensations are heightened when you're on ecstasy. It's also killing your body, of course, but you have your visual, so you hear the raves, you heard that music, so listen to that loud, fast-beat music, and then lights are really bright to them when you're on ecstasy. So if you see glow sticks, they'll have glow sticks, and they'll wave glow sticks in front of them, and do all sorts of crazy dances, and all that kind of weird stuff. But again, it's paying attention, those are small things, why you have one pacifier group.
Is that horse tranquilizer? Ecstasy?
No, it's a whole nother drug it's not horse tranquilizer. It's a manufactured clandestine drug that actually has heroin, has several things, similar, not similar, but it's made like methamphetamine, just a different kind of compound.
John,
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have this up here, yes ma'am.
You mentioned the dark web.
Yes.
Now, is that easy to go on, or is that like, we have our grandson every other weekend, and he's on his telephone, and I'm monitoring. But how easy would it be for him to get on something that he's not supposed to be
I
on?
would say the dark web's a little bit harder. You gotta be more in your later high school, college to understand how to get the dark web.
So you just can't accidentally get in?
Good question.
If a parent discovers this, what can they do about it? Okay, so they know if they're on some kind of drug.
Well, that's what there's treatments, there's, reaching out to counseling. Again, that's part of the problem, that's part of, there's not a lot of free resources out there, there's not a lot of resources in general. Mr. Barnes, I won't take much more of his time, but I'm sure he's gonna touch on that, with Narcotics Anonymous, is that, it's reaching out, and the thing is that you have the ability now to catch it where you found them using something, and now you can call that counselor, you can call that treatment place. You can hopefully get them in treatment where early on, when they haven't destroyed their loved ones, they haven't destroyed their lives, they haven't destroyed their marriages, whatever it may be, or they haven't died. You can catch it early enough and reach out to that resource. And Mr. Barnes, I know will be able to talk about it. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Barnes. And I'm gonna leave this bedroom up here, and I'll feel free after he's done talking, I'll stay up here and I'll ask any questions, and y'all can kind of look around this bedroom.
All complicated out here. Two people I want, well, one you've already met, Josh Bishop. Another one I want you to meet is Jason Over. He's over here in the corner. They rotate during these programs. They are two of our narcotic agents. And one of the things we do now, at every overdose death or suspected overdose death, we send a narcotic to get involved in the case from early on. And I will say this, Josh touched on it a little bit. We have charged more people with death by distribution than any agency in the state of North Carolina. And that's because we care. We work the case as long as we can to find out who is killing our folks. So that's one thing I'm proud of. The one guy we just sent off, he didn't get as much time as I would like. He got 12 years on top of what Josh, 12 more years for the federal. But he's gone for 24 years. He can't kill nobody else's child. So they are a great group of men. They're the ones and women. They're the ones who make me look good. It's not anything I do. So you got a great group of men and women this year.
Okay, I'm Scott Morris. I'm from Benson, and I might need this mic. A couple years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I had good days and bad days, and today hadn't been a good day. But this was important to me. Awareness, making the public aware of drug addiction is so important, and I really admire all want to thank them for asking me to cover it. To share with them my experience tonight. My family was able to come with me. There was a time when they couldn't go with me. They didn't want to go with me. I'm blessed today they have me in my life. I am a recovering addict, and I say that because there are two types of addicts. There's addicts in active addiction, there's addicts in recovery. Thank God I'm in recovery, because I was in active addiction for a long time. And I can tell you that this disease, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter what age, sex, race, it doesn't matter. It does not discriminate. I say I was a pretty good boy. I had a good family that raised me right. We went to church, I did right and wrong. I knew my mom used to always say, you didn't learn that at home. Because my mother and daddy, they didn't drink, they didn't smoke, they didn't do any of those things. But, I was on the rescue squad. I was active in church, usher, and a lot of positions in the church, and serving on the rescue squad. Was a really pretty good young boy. And in high school, I started hanging with the crowd that all liked to party, and so I joined, and we smoked marijuana and drank, and it was fun. There was a lot of laughing, it was a lot of fun. But I can tell you that led to hard-work drugs. And the next thing I knew, I crossed over that line. There's a line there. There's a line where we used to have a good time. And there's a line there that you cross that you got down to live. And once you cross that line where you got down to live, that good boy's gone. That good boy's gone. Because it is so cutting, baffling, and powerful. So cutting, baffling, and powerful. Now, once you've crossed that line, and you've reached that phase, and you're hooked. You're addicted. You're hooked. You gotta have it. You can't stop. You start doing things that you never believed that you could do. If I never believed I would do. Talk about the aware. There are changes. If you look at it, someone starts using, attitudes will change. The routines will change. There's a change. And I know some of that's part of growing up. But if you really be aware and watch, you will see when someone starts using and even gets hooked on drugs. There's signs. There's signs to see. And I'm really grateful that I'm clean and I'm in recovery. This month, the 24th of this month, will be 11 years since I've had anything illicit. No alcohol, no drugs, no nothing. That's my grace of God. No, I'll tell you about what brought me down. And I have been using drugs. And I tell you, my experience and the experience I hear from others, we usually harm the ones we love most. They're the ones we're still from and we'll lie to and we'll kind of manipulate because we know they're not going to lock us up. So we usually hit the ones we love most. And this is such a family disease. It affects the entire family. I did all those things. Really, I hated myself for what I was doing. I couldn't stop. It completely controlled my life. I say now, ever in that vicious cycle of using drugs, active addiction, so cutting back and powerful that controls your every thought, your every move. It controls you where you don't show up for functions, recitals, things that you want to do, you want to be, you just don't make it. So I don't ever want to be controlled by anything else like that again. And took my family through there. They almost love me to death. They see me at treatment centers and went to jail a couple of times. I overdosed a couple of times. They called the family and said I want to live. And where I had some twisted in my sick thinking, I was thinking, I'm not bothering anybody but me. It's my life, let me live it. I'm not taking anybody but me. I'm killing everybody that loves me. And I see that today. But where it all came to an end was, I still badly in active addiction. And I left one night late. And I really didn't know why. I was so messed up. And I had drugs, so what were after drugs? I don't know why I left, but I left. And I didn't come home. And about 3 o'clock, my daughter woke my wife up. She said, Daddy left, you didn't go back. And my wife asked my daughter, what should we do? She said, we should pray. They went on their knees in my daughter's bedroom, and they prayed that night for God to intervene in my life. Just about that time they said that prayer, I was stopped and arrested. You know, I thought at that time, this is a total disaster. Now I can look at it as there was a blessing. It saved my life. I thought over here in Harnett County Jail, boy, I wanted to get out. My dad said he was going to get me. So I was expected to leave the next day. He didn't come. So we had our phone privileges, I called. He said, I'm not coming to get you. He said, the lawyer said, number one, if I get you out, he's not going to be long. Number two, if I get you out, he's going to literally love you to death. He's going to kill you. He's going to kill you. You know, I didn't want to hear that at that time, but now I look back, and it's so true. If he didn't come got me out that next day, I'd be right back off to the races. But I stayed in this, I got a cage. I stayed out here for 6 months. And I needed every bit of it. I needed every bit of it. I was able to go through the withdrawals, which helped. Let me keep my eyes clear. I lost what am I doing? I had fun my entire life away. Yeah, I'm sick and tired of living this way. I don't live this way anymore. So, here's the hope shot. There is hope. There's hope. I got out and I went to a 12-step program for addicts. And I followed suggestions. We go through 12 steps really to work on ourselves. We're supposed to be taking drugs and what left in us, which is a big problem. So I really got involved there and I went through the steps. I started working on me. You know, after staying clean for a while, I was able to help other guys. And that's what I do today. I still go to a lot of recovery meetings. You know, to be honest, I'll never be cured. I'll always be an addict. But I've been free from active addiction. I didn't think the last time I thought about repeat or having to have drugs. It just crossed my mind. But I still go on a regular basis because I can't forget where I came from. I never will go back to the hell I lived in. So I go to a lot of meetings. I still, and the reason I go to a lot of meetings, I sponsor and mentor little guys that are coming in, and they need to get in and get involved, and we need to get through those steps and start working on their lives And some of the, I have Sunday nights, and we got probably 6 nights a week. And I'm gonna tell you, I started with a little bit of drinking and smoking marijuana, and it led to pain pills, cocaine. And what I see now coming into groups, 2 guys I just got recently, that I'm working with, because pain pills are so expensive. I mean, they were up to $25, $30 a day, and that shit cost like $15 million. They couldn't afford it, so they went to heroin. And then that's just another monster that you gotta deal with. And then one guy that I've got now that, you know, I get really close to these guys, I want to get his son bad. And I do anything I can that I think will help him get it. But the last guy that, he's been, at least 4 months now. He was straight there. Play Russian roulette. How he lived, I don't know. He was straight there. And I have to share with y'all, talking about getting close to these guys. Diane and Raymond. Just his name was Wade. He gave me a nice story to think about it, because I got so close to Wade, he was like a son. And I did everything I could do. He was staying clean, and those things we're talking about, I can look at him and tell, first glance, I can look at his, read his mouth, his eyes, and I knew he'd slipped. You know, I always still loved him, but I always said we'll get through it, we'll start over, we'll do this thing. And, you know, they worked with me, and he was just with me all the time. Best guy I've ever known, like, oh shoot, you could throw him anywhere. He loved everybody. I used to joke with him and say, Michelle, I don't like everybody all the time. He loved everybody. I mean, he got along with everybody. The best guy ever. I know we're not supposed to ask why. Why? Good guy like that. Why did God have a good guy like that? I'll never know. All I know is I miss him. I think about him daily. And I think about dying and Tim daily too, because I think that would be the worst thing. Being a little child. And if this disease, so, this disease is coming back really powerful. We'll never be cured. We can be arrested. We have a program that works if you work it. Why I knew that, I knew a guy that had been out and used it for a long, long time. He used to come with about $20 from the law. I knew he was the real deal. When I first walked in that meeting, I saw that guy sitting there, and he had 2 or 3 weeks clean. And I thought, if he can do this, maybe I can. And I see so many other people come in, you know, like, this month I had 11 years. I see other people, it works in their life, so I know that it works. But you've got to work it, you've got to be willing, want to change. Awesome suggestions, just work on yourself, sit up and show up. And it didn't just save my life, it gave me a life. You know, my family can depend on me and can trust me. I wasn't responsible. And I'm at 92, bed. And I can tell you that today, if anything happens in my family, brother or sister-in-law, my dad, my dog, or what, I'm the first person they call. Because I've gained that trust back. I'm responsible for that. I do it for it feels good. If you didn't have choice and free, I heard that a lot when I came into recovery. how to look at that, because I hadn't had peace in a long, long time. I hadn't had peace in a long time. And I didn't just want to be clean, I wanted to be happy, joyous, and free, and have some peace. And, you know, I found that. You know, for an addict like me that used 25, 30 years, and gone in jail several times, and was in the middle institute once, because I just didn't know what else to do. You know, give up debt a couple times and overdose. To be standing here tonight telling you that I was like, coming up on 11 years, and I'm ready to be happy. That is a blessing. So I told you I was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, and it's been a struggle, good days and bad days, but as a result, this program I'm in, I did just find a way to get clean. I found it all. You know, we went to church when I was a child. We was sitting there dressed up. I don't know what anybody else did, but I played the part. You know, I had to do what preacher said. I truly found it in the rooms of recovery. When I began to work those steps, work on me, and connect with God. And gives me peace today. It gives me strength today. He lets me know that no matter what, I'm going to be okay. And so I've been in recovery probably worse in the last 2 years than I've ever needed before. But there's hope. You know, if you know an addict that's using and they just can't stop using, and you see all those signs, you know, there's recovery houses, they don't want to do that. You know, there's a lot of stuff up there with the ladies and detox. The main thing you got to get at it, you got to stop. That's the first. You got to stop. We can start with anything else. So stop you have withdrawals. Opioids are worse. That's the very worst. It can be done. People do it every day. So, the main thing I want to leave you with is right here. Lots of people do not believe that alcoholism and drug addiction are a disease. I didn't believe it at first. Somebody thinks it's a moral dilemma. It's not. It's not a way to make ourselves irresponsible for our condition. We may not be responsible for our condition, but we are responsible for our recovery. We come to learn that answer is doing us all the time. There is one who has all power. That one is God, and you find him there. And that really, this is a process. It didn't happen overnight. It takes time. I didn't come into the room, so slept on every, and I had to go through the process for this thing. And it took me a while to get to that point right there, where there's one that has all power, and that one is God, and you find him now. Thank God I finally found him. He never left me, I left him. He gives me strength and peace today. So I really appreciate it. And sure asking you to come speak. I don't know if I covered kind of what y'all wanted to cover. All I need to do is just kind of share my experience, you know, where I come from and what happened and what it's like today. And it's possible there's hope. But if there's any questions or anything I can answer, I'll be glad to do that.
I got a question. Your answer would help me with my attack of this type of problem we have. We got to attack this problem from many different angles. Much kudos to the sheriff and everybody with all this, but my attack is the spiritual attack. So I have a question to you that will help me. You said you grew up in church, your parents didn't do this. I have a question. My question is, what was your relationship with Jesus Christ when you were going to church? And were you involved in much praying and talking to God? That will help me. This is not on you, because God is grace. I'm not judgmental.
Right, I understand.
I just want to know, say, how
Okay,
can I
for
speak?
me, my experience,
Yeah.
and it's just my experience. I grew up and had a good mom and daddy. I grew up in a good home. And my parents, Christians, they were at church. My daddy served on me. They was there at Baptist Church in Benson, and I dressed up and I went to. But really, I didn't find God at that time. Just didn't. I didn't know. I wasn't focused on it. I wasn't seeking it. For me, I believe I find what I seek. And I'm going to share that too. I don't care where you drop me off with New Orleans. If I want something, I seek it, I will find it. And I wasn't seeking God at that time.
Good.
But Mr. C's, all in my knees.
Yeah.
And I cried out, God, please send this. I started seeking God, and He showed up. You know, I have a relationship with God today, and He gives me peace, He gives me strength. I get every morning, I have a routine, I do it every day. I do my daily reading, my meditations, and my prayer, and I get prepared for the world. Because part of it is that world, we're not prepared to eat me up. You eat me up every time. But if I prepare myself, I'm more tolerant, loving, understanding, accepting, and those type of things. See, and that's for me. We went, I really wasn't seeking at that time, and so I didn't find it. But when I did start seeking,
Amen.
I found it.
I'd like to say, it takes a man to stand up and do what he did.
Yes.
That's giving us.
I want to thank Connie and his family for standing by him and supporting him. I've known Scott for a long time. I've known his family even longer. And he's right, he did come from this family.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the good Lord provides. And you cannot outgive the Lord, I promise you that. Again, this was a little bit of what we wanted to do. This program, if we save one child, this program was worth everything that we did. And one thing I didn't share earlier with you is in that first panel we had, Sand Hill, or it's, well, it is Sand Hill's mental health, the treatments. After we did that first program, 6 kids went over there. So it did more than what we wanted to. But they went over there and seeked help because they did not want what they were going, what they were seeing in this world. So that was good for us. And again, Ms. Kelly, thank you for having put this program on and hosting it. We'll be around for any questions afterwards. Thank y'all so much. God bless you. Be safe.
You want to say something?
No, come up here and ask me questions and look around this my bedroom if you like.